Villainous Heroics by I Believe in Happily Ever After, Oneo 3. Chapter 10. What do I do when I have a problem and I don't know how to solve it? Hizashi stared down at the text he had just sent, a bitter laugh leaving him as he shoved his phone away, not bothering or waiting for Suzuki's response. He was a mess. He couldn't even solve his own problems without asking a teenage co-worker. How pathetic. What might have been more pathetic, though, was how he didn't hesitate to jerk his headphones off to answer the phone when it showed she was calling him. He might have hesitated if he realized how late it was, though. Yamada, it's 2 in the morning, and we open tomorrow. Give me one good reason not to find your ass and kick it. Because otherwise you'd be the one stuck, coming in early and making cat muffins. Hizashi shot back, trying to force cheer and charm into his voice. It was easier to do when he was dressed in the familiar leather outfit that had become part of present Mike. Suzu-chan, you didn't have to call me. Yeah, but if I deal with this now, then I don't have to deal with it in the morning when not enough coffee in the world can make your voice pleasant. So, come on now. Let's get it out there. What's the problem you don't know how to solve? Hizashi could never let her know just how right her guess was. Taking a breath, Hizashi tried to sort his thoughts out into words that would make sense, instead of screams and shrieks that had been filling his head. It's a bit complicated, Suzu-chan, but it has a lot to deal with right now, and I think I made a mistake. Wait, are we still talking about your hero crush? Because, you're making a mistake in how you just won't talk to the guy, but this actually sounds serious. Holy shit! You know how to be serious? It's not as fun as it sounds, Hizashi murmurs, managing to barely hold back his bitterness from slipping through. It's not about my hero crush. At least not this part. I've been doing some side work. It was fun at first, and I thought I was managing to get the attention I needed to do something good with it, but now I'm starting to doubt that was the right plan. Uh-huh. Is this side work like the type of side work that I need to find some bail money for you if you're in jail right now? Then I'm not covering your shift tomorrow. I'll make sure Jamie doesn't either. I'm not in jail, Suzuki-chan. Hizashi whined, long and loud and annoying to cover up his skipped beat of heart. Suzuki was too smart by half some days. It's nothing illegal. That part was a lie, but it was for the greater good. It was just something that was supposed to help, but now I feel like it only caused trouble. Hizashi had been careful when he had first planned this. President Mike had been made to call attention to the shadows where the scum that were monsters, not villains but worse, were hidden. Loud, flashy, and impossible to ignore, President Mike had been the plan to call heroes' attention to what they had let slip through the cracks. He wanted to show the world, through force if necessary, that the heroes were useless at what they did. The police were corrupt. Teenagers were dragged out of their homes and schools, forced into work they didn't want to do. Adults were killed in back alleys for a few hundred yen, and children were abandoned and locked up like they were cattle to be passed around. It was hell. The system had done good, but there were places like this that were abandoned. There was no way that Hizashi would ever be a hero, and in this world, vigilantes were looked over as much as underground heroes. The only way to get attention was to be a pro-hero or to be a villain. It had been the perfect plan, but instead of capturing the attention of others, it was his attention that had been captured. Well, are you sure it caused trouble? You said you were trying to do good, right? You must have done some good, You're a sickening good person, Yamada. No, he really wasn't. You feed your lunch to the strays outside, and I know for a fact you cover the cost of people who have a hard time paying for coffee or food. That's just common decency. Hizashi sighed before frowning at Suzukane's scoff. This job has done nothing but cause trouble. He had helped a few people on accident. But mostly he had just created so much trouble when he could have been more focused on getting Eraserhead's attention over the media. No, it wasn't even Eraserhead he was trying to get looked at him. It was Aizawa who he wanted to look. Part of me wants to stop it, but I don't know if I can. If it's causing you this much stress, then I say drop it. From the mouths of babies. Everything was simple to someone like Suzuchai, who was young and bright and had grown up in the age of All Might. It can't be worth it, can it? I think it is. Hisashi had grown up without the symbol of peace. He had been 19 when All Might had made his debut, and Hisashi remembered the darkness that seemed to cover over Japan. Even with All Might now around, it seemed like all the darkness had only bled into places that were actually saturated with it. Or at least, I thought it was. No one had looked, though, and now, after everything that was happening in the world, well, if you think it's good, then keep doing it. I mean, I've seen the news. I think we could all use a little good after those Nomu creatures and that hero killer. Suzukai's voice, near faded at the end, Hisashi hearing the tremor in it. My sister was there. That day. She told me how terrifying those things were. Those weren't humans, she said. No, they weren't. Hisashi murmured, feeling agony push to walk him faster. It wasn't like he planned on going anywhere when he had gone on his patrol, that it had become too much of a habit after Aizawa's disappearance. At least now it was a good way to burn off steam. The hero killer wasn't much of a human either, though. He could understand the man's ideals. Hisashi had done the same ones, after all. Shine a spotlight on the fake heroes out there and force them to see just what was happening behind the flash of cameras that were trained on them. The way Stain had gone about it, though, had been horrifying. Hisashi wasn't innocent. There was no way to be innocent after growing up the way he had. Bound around from one house to the next, and often escaping into alleys and dark buildings in the dead of night to try and pretend he was somewhere else. He wasn't innocent, but he had never let himself become a killer. The system was broken, but there were good heroes in the world. Maybe they had the wrong ideals some days, but none of them deserved to be killed for doing a job that involved helping and protecting people. The Nomu, on the other hand, Hisashi didn't know what to think about those. Those were no doubt a connection to the League he had been hearing about, but that didn't answer the question of what they were. Hey, you're not walking around the streets this late at night, are you? You know that's dangerous. Especially with all this stuff going on. Aw, are you worried about me, Suzukai-chan? Hisashi cooed, amused that she knew that many swears. I'm getting some fresh air. No worries, I'll be at work bright and early tomorrow. I'll even sing for you if you want. I'd rather face off against one of those monsters. Suzukai was silent, for long enough that Hisashi started to wonder if she had hung up before he heard a soft sigh. For what it's worth, I think you're a good guy, Yamada. Whatever you're doing, well... Suzukai fell silent, voice soft and childish as she finished. I bet it's pretty heroic. A quick goodbye and the call ended. Hisashi left staring ahead as he slowly lowered his phone, insides feeling like they were squirming around like snakes. Heroic. She had called him heroic. It was the greatest joke that he had ever been told throughout his life. Such a villainous quirk. Who would ever make you a hero? He'd be a fine hero, but that quirk is just so destructive. It just scares me. That voice of his is so loud. He never listens. It's such a problem, really. How can he save anyone when he seems to do is hurt people? So clumsy. He's out of control. He won't shut up. Let's make sure that nasty quirk of yours can't harm other children. No, Hisashi had never been heroic. And yet, here was this 17-year-old girl who thought he was. It was the worst joke of them all. And yet those words wouldn't stop playing through his head, warm and soft and stubborn and sounding as if it could be true. Heroic, huh? Tucking his phone away, Hisashi slid his headphones back on, and took a moment to soak in the shuddering breath. Then what was the point? Just muzzle the kid already. The boss could make a fortune with a quirk like this one. The words were on the edge of his hearing, but Hizashi had heard them anyways, direction changing at once at one of the alleys that had a nearby hidden entrance. It was one of those alleys that no one wanted to be caught in at night, a straight line to a dead end that couldn't be climbed or passed. It was a wall that had a kid pressed against it, entire body tensed and coiled and ready to fight back. His eyes, though, had nothing but fear as a man stepped forward with a muzzle. Yo, 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 what kind of party do we have going on here? Hizashi projected his voice and gave him a beaming grin as all eyes turned towards him. Good. That meant they weren't looking at the kid. What the hell do you want? One of the men activated his quirk, fingers stretching and narrowing into sharp talons that looked sharp as tips of knives. Hizashi couldn't tell in the dark, but it almost looked like there was a dried blood on them. Get the hell out of here, if you know what's good for you. Oi hoy, there's no need to be rude. Hizashi laughed, the sound edged with as close to a cackle as he could, before he shoved his hands into his pockets and scrolled forward like he didn't have a care in the world. And you have better put your little claws away before you find them broken off. What did you say, you fucking... One of the others, the one with the bull mutation quirk, stopped the guy and narrowed his eyes at Hizashi. Your present Mike. That was more like it. You helped take down some of the drag gang, didn't you? Ah, rival games. How boring. They were annoying me. Hizashi shrugged, motion loose and wide as he kept himself balanced, even as he walked, ready to run forward or backwards depending on what happened. You never answered. What's your deal with the kid? Looks like a scrawny little thing for you all. It's none of your fucking business. The one with talons snarled, the third member of the little group quickly shaking his head. Be chill, man. This is the guy that always goes up against Eraserhead and comes out of it alive. Behind them, Hizashi saw the kid straighten, eyes widen the smallest amount. Interesting. The kid looked young, no older than 14 or 15. He was dressed in some sort of jumpsuit that didn't look like the average clothing choice for someone his age, and he had wild purple hair and deep bags under equally purple eyes. He seemed to know Eraserhead, though. This was turning out to be interesting. No need to worry, Present Mike, we're not going to hurt him much. That last word had Hizashi tensing up at the same time as the kid. He's just some random to get the hero scum you always dealing off with off our backs. Yet they were talking about selling the kid. Wait. Eraserhead. Fuck. This kid seemed to know Eraserhead, so that likely meant that Aizawa knew who this kid was. Hizashi was starting to get a knack for stumbling into trouble, it felt like. Well, now you got my attention. Thought we might. The man with the bull mutation laughed, loud and overpowering, and Hizashi caught a glimpse of a black tongue that was the calling sign of trigger use. He felt like punching himself because now he really had got himself into trouble, but, well, the kid looked scared. We just need to put a muzzle on him, and then we'll be on our way. Eyes darting to the muzzle, Hizashi mind worked quick before he was throwing out a mock laugh. I know your gang style, and subduing people isn't your M.O., is it? You probably don't even know how to use that thing. The silence was all the answer he needed, and he thanked whatever gods were listening. Come on, then. Hand it over and I'll muzzle the kid. And how do we know you aren't just gonna take him? Kid has a good quirk, and we could get some money out of him. What a suspicious little bastard. Hizashi hated that he had to wait before kicking their asses. You think I care about some kid with what? A voice-type quirk? The quick nod one of them had, him fighting off a shoulder of revulsion. They'd wanted to muzzle a fucking kid. How fucked up did they have to be? There we go. Nice and silent. Isn't that better, Hizashi? Please, Hizashi scoffed, striding forward and snatching the muzzle with a smirk. It's Eraserhead I'm after. We have some unfinished business. If this kid can draw him out, then what's the harm in hanging around for a while? Be my guest. The guy was getting kicked the hardest, Hizashi decided. Still, he gave a winning smile as he walked over to the kid, noticing the shaking form from his shoulders. The poor thing had shoved himself up against the wall as far back as he could go, eyes angry and terrified as they narrowed at him. He didn't look like he was bleeding, but he certainly looked banged up. Yeah, glare all you want, kid, but you sit still if you know what's good for you. Crouching down, Hisashi glanced back at the men, raising an eyebrow. Oi! Keep an eye on the fucking entrance and rooftops. Eraserhead is gonna be announcing his presence. As soon as the three glanced away, Hisashi dropped the muzzle as silently as possible, swinging his headphones off and holding them in front of the kid, so only the kid could see. Alright, kid. Stay fucking still if you know what's good for you. Hisashi laughed, loud and flashy, as he needed it to be. The second his laugh echoed, he dropped his expression and looked the kid in the eyes. Stay quiet, okay? I'm gonna get you out of this, but you need to do what I say, not if you understand. There was a second where the kid looked shocked, before he was quickly nodding. Good. Okay, you're doing fine. You're doing great. Hisashi lifted the headphones, carefully fitting them over the other's ears, as he kept talking. From the angle he was at, it would look like he was using the muzzle. You're going to be okay. I promise you that I won't let those fucking muzzle touch you, okay? I have a voice quirk too, and I'm gonna use it on these guys. I need you behind that dumpster, though, okay? The right one beside your left ear. I need you to hide there, and not come out until I give a signal. Got it? The kid definitely knew Aizawa with the way he calmly nodded, shifting just enough to not draw attention, but ready to leap behind the dumpster at a moment's notice. Hisashi smiled, feeling anxiety crawling up him as he started taking deep breaths. Hey, you got that muzzle on the kid, or not yet? Looking at the kid, Hisashi gave him a wink as he flipped his hearing aids out, sucking in a deep breath. As he did so, as soon as his lungs were filled to the brim, he nodded. The kid scrambled away at the same moment Hisashi jumped up, turned on his heel, and screamed. Hisashi didn't bother giving them the chance to try and fight back. All three of them collapsed at once, plucking at their ears and no doubt screaming as they started twitching on the ground. One of them threw up, but Hisashi didn't stop until they were certain all three of them were unconscious and unlikely to move again anytime soon. His ears were ringing, and the walls that made up the alley looked a little more crumbled. But Hisashi was at least satisfied that they wouldn't be getting up anytime soon. There was bleeding coming from the ears of all three gang members. Hisashi kicked the muzzle towards them as he put his hearing aids back in. If they were lucky, he might even have some hearing left after this. Hisashi usually tried to hold back on his quirk and keep it from causing any permanent damage, but they had just tried to muzzle a fucking kid, so he could probably be forgiven for that one. Glancing at the dumpster and fiddling with his hearing aids, Hisashi tensed and spun on his heel when he heard hard footsteps. He didn't even manage to fully suck in a breath for a scream when he saw Aizawa staring at him and looking as startled and surprised as he felt. Mike. Aizawa looked like he was going to say more before he sharply shook his head, stepping over the collapsed bodies. Have you seen a teenager? 15, black clothing, purple hair, and violet eyes, pale skin, bags under his eyes. The words were still a little muffled. Hisashi frowned as he fiddled with his hearing aids. Mike? Yeah, I heard you. Give me a moment. Fuck. It would probably take all night for his hearing to return properly. Where are your headphones? Aizawa frowned. Hisashi almost cooed when he saw the man's worry over him. Why did you use your quirk without your headphones? They were already in use, hero, Hisashi chirped, walking over to give the dumpster 2 kicks. A moment later, the kid poked his head out from the small place he had crammed himself into. Tugging the headphones down to rest around his neck, he gave a smirk. I didn't know you were into screamers, sensei. A million emotions seemed to cross over Aizawa's face, but it seemed to freeze on annoyance. That was probably Hisashi's fault for bursting into laughter, but it was hilarious. Don't forget I can give you detention, brat. Aizawa looked at them both before turning to look at the unconscious gang members. What the hell happened? Just a bunch of assholes. Language, Shinsou. Just a couple of assholes, sir. The kid, Shouta, shot back, tension in his shoulders starting to drain as Aizawa walked over to them. I'm okay though, your vigilante friend or whatever helped me out. Oi, kid, I'm a villain, not a vigilante. Hizashi frowned, catching the headphones with a little tiss, when Shouta threw them at him. No, you're really not. This little brat, he was like a clone copy of Aizawa. Actually, they did look alike. Eraserhead! Hizashi shot his gaze to Aizawa. The other, startling at the sudden volume. You didn't tell me you had a child. I have a what? Aizawa stared at him with pure and honest shock and panic. It was the most open expression Hizashi has ever seen from him, and it was the most amazing moment of his life so far. In what way does this brat look like my kid? Hizashi shot a gaze to Shinsou, the teen looking like he wanted to say something cheeky remark before he thought better of it, biting his lip. It was a familiar gesture that had Hizashi giving a loud laugh in his place. Come on, Eraser, don't be cruel to your son, you can trust me. There was a long silence, where Aizawa seemed to be contemplating the best way to murder him before Shinsou was giving a small, quiet laugh. I'm really not his kid. I'm more his mentee, I guess. Sidekick? Intern? We're kind of doing a late intern week thing. He's my student. Aizawa rolled his eyes, setting a hand on Shinsou's head. The teen seemed to lean into the contact, Aizawa's lips twitch into a smile. This is Shinsou Hitoshi. Nice to meet you, little listener. I'm the one and only voice villain, Present Mike. The two gave him the same deadpan stare, Hizashi trying not to laugh. Are you sure you two aren't related? At least a little bit? Sensei is training me to get into the hero course with UA. Shinsou said, looking like he wanted to roll his eyes. Hizashi had honestly surprised. He couldn't resist since he seemed to carry the same uncaring attitude as Suzuki did. Apparently I had motivation but lacked the necessary skills. I think that's his way of saying I suck, but I have promise. Which you do, Aizawa said. He did roll his eyes, looking as though he was used to the self-deprecating tone Shinsou had. It's no small feat to make it into one-on-one battles in the sports festival, especially as a first year. You were in the sports festival. Hizashi racked his brain, thinking back to the event. That had been the first he had caught a glimpse of Aizawa on the news, when they had been broadcasting. He had not only learned that the school the man had worked at, UA, but he had also learned that Aizawa had looked near death and had only caused Hizashi to worry more, but he remembered the students who had made it to the final battle rounds. Shinsou Hitoshi. Oh, right, you're the one with the brainwashing quirk. Hizashi saw both of them tense, and he knew why. There were more than one person in this world who had grown up with hearing that they had a villain quirk. Softening his smile, Hizashi looked at Shinsou without any trace of fear. It was hard to be afraid when looking into a minor, after all. Your quirk is amazing, Shinsou-kun. There it is. The teen looked at him with wide eyes and a hitch of his breath. You did great in the sports festival, too. It's not an easy thing to make it that far. I bet, and you could do so many good things with that quirk. Because it was his quirk. Not a villain's, not a hero's, not a vigilante's, but a quirk that belonged to Shinsou and Shinsou alone. You're going to be an amazing hero one day. Hizashi was almost afraid that the teen was going to end up crying because he knew he would start crying if he had been told that at 15. Instead, though, the kid gave him a bright, beaming smile with wet eyes. I'm going to be the #1 underground hero. Those are some big shoes to fill, but you seem to be well on your way since you have the current #1 training you. Hizashi grinned, giving a wink at Aizawa. For a moment, Hizashi could almost fool himself into thinking that the man had blushed. So then, Eraser, off to jail with me? Why, I didn't see you do anything against the law. Aizawa took out his phone, looking bored. I do need to call the police to pick up these 3, though. Yeah, they kind of weird that they collapsed out of nowhere. Shinsou nodded, the two of them having the exact same grin. Hizashi was certain that they had to be related at least a little bit. You might want to get out of here, though, Aizawa said quietly, face going back to being blank, but amused hidden in the eyes. The police captain seems to have it out for you. All right, I'm going, Hizashi pouted, glancing to Shinsou. He would have tried to flirt with Aizawa a little more, but he didn't want to traumatize the kid too badly. See you later, hero, and I expect you to be kicking ass out there one day, Herolet. That's not a word, even in English. Aizawa complained, unable to keep the sour attitude up, in the light of Shinsou's laughter. Hizashi couldn't blame him. The kid looked like he didn't laugh very often. See you later, voice vigilante. Cheeky brat. He's gonna be a great hero. It wasn't until hours later, long after Hizashi had climbed into bed, under rattly blankets, with Snowball purring loud enough that he could hear even with hearing aids out, that Hizashi realized what he had done. Somehow, against all odds, Hizashi had used his quirk and ended up saving someone. A quirk that was destructive and dangerous, and meant for a villain, and he had used it to protect a kid and keep him safe. It felt good. Alright, I'm gonna do some notes on the fanfic, and then I have some other notes that I want to tell you guys that I mentioned in yesterday's videos. But, okay, alright, we see this. Is this gonna be the start of Hizashi going into the whole, hero redemption arc? Because I know that was one of the tags. I believe that was one of the tags. Let me go scrolling all the way up to find that tag. Yeah, Vigilante Hizashi. No, that says. Hold up. Oh, yeah, villains to heroes. Yeah. Enemies to friends to lovers. Hospitals. Wait, gunshot wounds? Hold up, we haven't got a gunshot wound. Oh, what? Okay. Alright, well, now I'm scared. What did I just uncover? Okay. Gunshot wounds aside. I knew that this was gonna be a, redemption villain arc. Well, can it really be a redemption villain arc if Motherfricker wasn't even a villain to begin with? I'm sorry. Hizashi, you're not a villain. You're a vigilante. Just accept it. Just eat the pie. Accept it. If it acts like a duck, walks like a duck, sounds like a duck, and looks like a duck, it's a duck. You're a duck. Well, no, you're not a duck. You're a vigilante. You act like one. You sound like one. Your ideals are like one. Literally, you're a vigilante. My dude, you're a vigilante. You're not a villain. That is the if Villain Hizashi came to me, this one specifically, not the other Villain Hizashis, things I would do. Okay, anyway, I'm asexual, hold up. Shit ain't lining up. But if this vigilante, not vigilante, well, he is a vigilante, this quote-unquote Villain Hizashi came up to me, he's like, I'm a villain. Yeah, no, you're not. I would be like, Shinsou here, the whole snarky remarks. I love how everyone's like, yeah, he's sassy. He is sassy. I feel like he's like the grumpy sassy. He's like Aizawa, but sassy. Aizawa isn't sassy, he's just blunt. Shinsou is blunt, with a bit of sass. I love that. I love that so much. Okay, but I can't wait to see his redemption arc. I feel like, redemption arc. Also, it's a slow burn, and I wonder, is it gonna be like the slow burn, like, they get together at the end? That's what I noticed. A lot of the times, if it's labeled slow burn, they don't get together to the very end, which, like, wait, let's go. I love that. Can I get some time with them together, please and thank you? Love that. Would love to see that. I like slow burn when it's like half of the story is the slow burn. Part of this, like, and the rest is like them actually together, or maybe not half, but at the very least at the half mark is when they should, when I think is acceptable for them to get together, when it comes to a slow burn and stuff like that, because personally I also like to see the characters together, not just over and over the whole, tension building, it's not resolving, and then it resolves, and then it's the end. I want to see some of that payoff. Personally, that's me. I know some other people like this type of slow burn where it's like they get together at the very end. Not me. I like to see some of the what's it called? Some of the payoff at the end, seeing them together at the end, which is why I really love the Hero Aizawa X Vigilante Hizashi fanfic that I read once, because it's a 2-part series. where the first part is the slow burn, they get together at the very end, and then the second part is them actually together and managing that and all that stuff, which was really interesting and I really enjoyed it. As for my pride, am I gonna eat it? I'm gonna eat it. I'm gonna read over and make sure that the smutty scenes aren't too smutty for my liking. I mean, like, for my liking, I like them smutty, but like, for my liking to podfic and actually sit here and, yeah. Probably have to age restrict those videos. Yeah, definitely. For peace of mind. Family, if you're watching, I'm so sorry. My Aunt Jules, if you're watching, I finally caved. That one time in camping trip when I told you I don't podfic smut, and you said, why not? That's the best part. I'm caving. I'm doing it. I'm pretty sure she's probably the only one who would actually sit and listen to my videos. Everybody else, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry to my father. I'm so sorry to my uncle. I'm so sorry to my other uncle. To my aunt. I can't say I'm sorry. You literally said it was the best part. I'm doing what you said. To my other uncle, I'm also sorry. To my mother, I apologize. I really hope my brother isn't... I'm gonna tell my brother not to listen to my things anymore. He doesn't listen to them anyways. To my friends, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm eating my pride. I'm eating my pride. To everybody who knows me in person or online, kind of, I'm sorry. But the fans want what the fans want, and I will give them what they deserve. Yeah, goodbye pride. As always, my raindrops, make sure to eat, sleep, drink water, take your meds. Have a wonderful day or night. The link to my Discord server and socials are down in the description. Subscribe to see more of my content, and thank you so much for watching.